That side is good. Yeah.
we're working on it.
All right, Lee Merritt, Leemerritt, lead attorney for the family of Brandon Durham. Mr.
Cannon Lambert, Cannon Lambert, Senior.
All right. We just finished our meeting with the prosecutor here, Steve Wolfson, and we really came down today on behalf of the family of Brandon Durham, and you'll be able to hear from his family, his loved ones, about what this process has been like for them so far. But we're waiting for the indictment of Officer Alexander Bookman for the murder of Brandon Durham. We have last met with the prosecutor 90 days ago, and he explained to us that there's a process here in Clark County when considering charges against police officers. This family has been as patient as possible. This community has been as patient as possible as they complete that process. We're at that point in the process where the information is in, the facts are in. We were told today the new information we have is that the file is, according to the prosecutor, 98% complete, and that within the next few weeks, 2 weeks tops, he expects to have a complete file for his attorneys to consider, and then they will make a charging decision concerning the misuse of force by this officer. We don't see this as a close call. When we first met with the prosecutor, we all agreed that the officers responding on November 12th were coming into some facts that were rapidly unfolding. Since then, we've learned that this officer, Officer Bookman, specifically knew each of the individuals who were involved in the call. He knew the perpetrator, who the suspect was. He knew who the homeowner was. And despite that, he didn't make a split-second decision, but he made a specific decision to use deadly force against the homeowner, shooting him once when making a decision between him and the home intruder, and then closing the gap and shooting him 5 more times. That is a crime in any jurisdiction. And the wait for accountability is becoming frustrating. At this point, you'll hear from my co-counsel, Cannon Lambert, and then we'll take questions either to our office directly about our meeting today or questions directed at the family.
So just briefly, I do think it's important that we understand that the family is encouraged by the fact that we now have a timeline that we hope to be able to hold them accountable for. 98% completion is a good thing. What we do want to make clear is that when it comes to analyzing the evidence that the state's attorney will be provided, it's important that they focus on several things. One, that Brandon allowed the officer into the home biometrically with his thumbprint 24 hours beforehand. The officer knew who Brandon was, knew who Alejandra was. It's extremely important that that is something that they take into account. It's extremely important that they take into account that Brandon was in his underwear. He was in his underwear when he was shot. It's extremely important that the state's attorney takes into account that the officer trained his weapon 3 separate times before discharge. It's extremely important that the state's attorney takes into account the fact that no one was in harm's way at the time that the command was made to drop the knife. It's extremely important that the state's attorney takes into account the fact that the officer did not afford anyone the opportunity to respond to his commands, to comply with his commands. If you look at those things in conjunction with the past history, it's abundantly clear that this officer made a calculated decision. This was not a split-second decision. He made a calculated decision to discharge his weapon. When he discharged his weapon, it is important that the state's attorney takes into account the fact that both of the individuals fell to the ground, and despite that, the officer then took 2 steps forward, and discharged 5 more times, thereafter killing Brandon. It's extremely important that you look at those things, because when you do so, it makes it clear that this is not a close call. This is something that we expect charges to be brought based on the evidence. This is not something that we are asking for him to do any beyond the law. We are asking him to simply follow the law. You'll hear now from the family.
Okay, I'll go ahead and speak. So Diane Wright, Brandon Durham's sister. The whole situation, I don't know how many times I can keep repeating. It is tragic. It is heartbreaking. Once again, anybody is able to see exactly how this situation went down. I'm not understanding why it is taking so long for justice to come into fruition regarding this. The officer was at the home the night before speaking with both my brother and Boudreaux for over 20 minutes. You were having a full conversation. You know who is who. There is no way that you do not know who it is, the suspect is, and who the homeowner is. As they already addressed, my brother used his biometric, his thumbprint, to be able to get into the home. How do you come in, you're waving your gun at both people, and you shoot my brother continuously until his demise? There is no way. There is no way that that is okay. There is no justification for it. There is no way that this is some split-second decision. It is purely calculated. We want justice. I'm going to keep repeating it. We want justice. This is unacceptable. We want justice.
Hi, my name is Rachel Gore. I was Brandon's wife. And I'm only here today because I lost someone I loved very deeply. I am so frustrated with this process. I'm so frustrated with this DA's procrastination to file charges. I am devastated that he hasn't filed charges. I am upset that he hasn't filed charges. I'm not at peace with myself. I'm not at peace with the situation. I think he is an elected official. I think he answers to the people. He answered to meet with us today, and he answered to meet with us before, but he was very inconsistent with his phrases about how he wants to proceed with this. He said he hasn't got a file, but he hasn't decided to file charges, but also he thinks it's close. When I asked him, what is close about this? He cannot answer that for me. These are the facts. Bookman walked into the home. Bookman's an LV MPD police officer. He shot Brandon once, he shot him again, he shot him again, he shot him again and again. And then he turns to the suspect and asks them if they need help up. I don't see how that's not criminal. I don't see what's close about this. I hope you're watching this, Wolfson, and you can think about this at night and think about how my life has been ruined, how my life has been forever changed, because I never thought I would ever encounter something like this in my entire life.
I do. I am Brandon's mother, Lenore de Jesus. And I am so disappointed in this DA. I'm so disappointed in this police department. It is obvious what went down. It's obvious what happened. This is a heinous crime, and they need to take responsibility. They sent an untrained officer, and this was the outcome. This is murder. When you shoot an unarmed man who calls you for help and looks you in the face and says, "Help me," and you shoot him, that's murder in this state and in any other state. So what is taking so long is beyond me. I am absolutely disappointed in the way this has been handled. It's so heinous that it should have been number one on their to-do list of finding out and getting it done and prosecuting this inept officer. I can't imagine anybody else would want to ride with him. I can't imagine anybody else wanted to do business with him. I expect him to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law because my son deserves justice.
There it is.
We'll take some questions.
So how long did you end up meeting with the District Attorney Steve Wolfson? And can you say anything specific that he mentioned to you guys about the case, why it's taking so long, and anything in Officer Bookman's background that stood out to y'all?
Yeah. So the meeting lasted about 45 minutes. He and a team of attorneys who are responsible for reviewing the file that's going to come in from Metro Police Department met with us. So it was a team of about 5 attorneys and investigators. They talked to us about our frustration with the timeline. And as I said, the most important fact that we got from there was that it was 98% complete. The 2% that wasn't complete is based on lab results, allegedly. We have not learned about the blood alcohol content of the officer, of Officer Bookman, and so we already know that they have labs on the decedent, which they prioritized over the blood content of the officer. We're interested in learning that. We have not seen Officer Bookman studied in a way that would be consistent with a murder investigation, so we don't know about his criminal background, misuse of force on the force prior to this. There's been a hedge of protection placed around the officer, and this is the frustrating part. We know how a criminal is treated in this system. All we have to do is look over at Boudreaux, who's being rightfully prosecuted for her crimes. That's been presented to a grand jury. The grand jury is still receiving evidence. To the extent that more evidence comes in, they're pursuing additional indictments. We want the same energy for the officer in the situation, Officer Bookman.
Why is the blood alcohol content of the officer important?
Well, we know that he made a brazen decision to use deadly force against the person who clearly called him for help, to someone who had a chance to observe the night before. And so, yeah, his mental state, whether he was under the influence when he received this call, is going to be important about the reasonableness of his decision. He made a completely irrational decision, and we want to know what that was based on. And so I'm hoping that that is the labs that are still out that we're waiting for before we can make a final decision concerning the criminality of the officer.
How confident do you feel that an indictment may come down and charges may be filed against this officer?
I'm guardedly optimistic about the charges. I'm optimistic based on what I know about the facts and what I know about the law. The facts and the law demand a criminal indictment against the officer in the situation. The only factor is the willingness of the prosecutor, or the lack thereof, to bring criminal charges. If this prosecutor obstructs justice, and of course this family will not stop seeking justice, and we will continue to seek, and we've discussed having this office refer this case over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, who's not currently in place, because this region doesn't have a U.S. attorney currently in place, but once one is in place, we're hoping for a federal review here. And we're also speaking with the Office of Attorney General Aaron Ford, who also has an obligation to ensure that citizens aren't the victims of police violence and police misconduct without accountability.
You mentioned something about the 90-day process, that there is a process for this prosecution. Can you explain to us a little bit more about what that process looks like, and are they doing what they need to do based off of what you were told about that process?
What we were told is that the prosecutor, under his discretion, is hands off of the fact-finding aspect, the investigation aspect of this case, but the sole agency responsible for investigating the misconduct of Officer Bookman is the agency which he's employed under, the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Once the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, who has been the sole finders of facts until this point, have completed their file, they will make a presentation with a recommendation to the prosecutor's office. That is how it was explained to us. We were told that it would take within 90 days. We're now past that window, and we're told that we're really close now, and so that we should expect a presentation. Under the law of this jurisdiction, under the United States Constitution, the prosecutor does have the discretion to bring charges himself, to direct the PD, to direct his investigators to find evidence. And so his decision to sit back on his hands and wait for the PD to do it in this situation is disappointing, particularly considering it's been over 90 days now.
Did prosecutors say anything to you in your meeting today that indicated that they do plan to try to prosecute them?
Yes, the prosecutors in the meeting made it clear that if they found evidence of a crime, and as we described it, as the new evidence came in, that the way that they were initially looking at the case as potentially a split-second decision by an officer who could go either way, the more evidence that has come in during the course of the investigation leans towards a criminal indictment for the officers. Now, the prosecutor wanted to make clear today that until he has the file, he cannot make a decision or express a lien. But the facts that we are gathering, the facts as we argued them in his office today, as we see them, are consistent with a criminal indictment. And he says he would have no problem bringing criminal charges against this officer, that this department is in the process of prosecuting Metro police officers for misconduct, some on duty, some while off duty, but that this office would not hesitate to bring criminal charges against this officer.
Which prosecutor said that?
Prosecutor Wolfman, the District Attorney Wolfson. Yeah.
And did he say if any other
No.
Do
No
you know the
discussion
current
of
status
analysis.
of the officer as well? Do we know if he's on?
He's still in paid administration leave.
I was looking to see if the family can just comment on how quickly the case of Boudreaux has gone through the criminal justice system, and also like anything specific about the facts of the case that come to light that maybe you want to give an opinion on.
It's
Same thing.
wonderful. Basically, what we're going to be like kind of a broken record. Same concept. It's excellent that yes, Boudreaux is in custody, and yes, they are acting, but Boudreaux has an accomplice, Bookman. Bookman needs to be standing right there next to Boudreaux. If not for Bookman, he pulled the trigger. He was the one that pulled the trigger. It's clean. It's cut. Boudreaux went in there with his own agenda. Bookman executed my brother. It was an execution. Plain and simple. It's murder.
And if charges aren't filed against the officer, what will your next steps be?
If I want to be clear, if the prosecutor for Clark County, if Mr. Wolfson decides not to bring criminal charges, not to move forward with criminal charges, there is an ordinance in place for Clark County that takes this through a special process where that decision can be reconsidered at the state level. To us, it is abundantly clear the criminal charges need to move forward, and so we will go straight directly to the Attorney General's office for the state of Nevada, Aaron Ford, to ask him to employ his supervisory authority to appoint a special prosecutor to move forward with criminal charges. We'll also be looking for intervention from the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And any plan to file a lawsuit against Metro Police?
Yeah, our priority is for the criminal process to take its place. We are certainly investigating our federal civil rights suit. We're using our investigation to supplement their criminal investigation. We're turning over all evidence that we receive so that we can prioritize criminal accountability. But yes, this family will be moving forward with federal civil rights actions as well. Thank you.